Hi, everyone. We're a month into the Miami FC season, and I think it's fair to say the club has defied expectations. There were very low expectations before the season. And this is a club that I would say the last 3 seasons has spent as much money as anyone in the USL Championship in terms of its player budget and in terms of acquiring players and taking players, quite honestly, that were recycled throughout the league that had played for, let's just take Paco Craig, for instance. He had played on several championship teams, Eastern Conference championship teams and USL championship teams in Louisville. Signing guys like that is very expensive. And as someone who worked in NASL and saw the same pattern with some of our clubs like Tampa Bay and San Antonio and others, who are now both in USL, by the way, we see, you see how much that creates constant flux in an organization and just maybe teams that are too expensive, quite frankly, that you've spent too much money on a player budget for a Division II league, which is what USL Championship is. So I really like the approach that we saw from Miami FC this offseason. I thought maybe it was a little risky to only retain 3 guys from, as I said, a very highly priced squad. And it was 3 lower profile players that were retained. And to go out and sign 19 new guys, many of whom have not played in the United States before, a few of whom, 5 of which came from the 3rd division level in the United States, were playing in the 3rd division last season. And then a couple of other guys who have some significant USL Championship experience. But a real mix of guys. And what we've seen with the new coach, Antonio Nocerino, is he's meshed this squad really well. And we've got 4 points through 4 matches, which is, I think, better than anyone expected when you look at the opening 4 fixtures that we had, which were Colorado Springs, a team that I thought would be very good before the season. They haven't started particularly well. Sacramento, who I picked to win the championship, who I think are the best team in USL coming into the season. Orange County, who I rate very highly as well, and very good team. Obviously won the title a few years ago. And Charleston, who I picked to win the Eastern Conference, who won the Eastern Conference last year and were a penalty kick away from winning the entire thing last season. So that's a really difficult opening. And to get 4 points out of 4 games is more than anyone expected. Granted, 3 of them were at home, but we've seen through the years Miami FC tends to play as well, if not better, away from home than they do at at FIU Stadium. So I'm pretty pleased with what we see. I'm very impressed with Coach Nocerino. Have gone to a training session. I've spent a lot of time around the team these last couple of weeks, and I like the youthful energy of the squad. I think that we are going to be in every match this season. I do think we have a really good mix of energetic players, technical players, some very technical players, some quick wingers, and guys that can make a real impact in this league. USL Championship, we're seeing more and more teams high press and counter press. So we have a team that can beat the press and create 1v1, 2v2 opportunities on the counterattack, as well as a team that can do its own bit of high pressing. A younger team, a team that can be press in a way that we didn't see the last few years, quite frankly, with an older team. So I'm excited about the team. Hartford Athletic coming up next up in Hartford, up in Connecticut. They've started pretty well. I've been impressed. Watched the entire 90 minutes of their match against Birmingham and watched most of the 90 in their loss to a North Carolina FC team, which is the team I'm going to be talking about, I think, more and more as the season goes on. I like what John Bradford and company did up in Cary, up in Raleigh-Durham this year to build that squad as they come back to the USL Championship. Tampa Bay after that, the big one, right? The big rivalry match, midweek match. We'll be talking about that next week. But I just wanted to give a status report. I really like the complexion of this team. I do think there are some concerns. I do think that this team is particularly weak defending crosses into the area. I think this team is also very bad in defending set pieces. Very bad. I mean, alarmingly bad. But those are things that I think will be ironed out as time goes on the training ground. I've liked what we've seen going forward. I think the midfield play in the first 3 matches was very good. It was not so good against Charleston. But again, Charleston, a very good team, a team that presses high, a team that disrupts you, a team that has a lot of experience. So learning experience certainly for our guys in that match. And then I do think up front we may not have any natural finishers, but we have a lot of guys that can put the ball in the back of the net. Whether we're talking about guys that are scoring from distance, we've seen a couple goals from distance, or whether we're seeing guys who can create 1v1 opportunities on counterattacks, and we've seen a fair amount of that. And in fact, when I look at the team, the guys that have really impressed me, Gavilinas, obviously. And that's a guy I knew would be good, right? I'd watched him at Greenville, so I knew he'd be good. The other guy I knew that would be good on this team is Dalton Knudsen, who has come in from USL League One also, and this player I've watched. So I knew those two guys. They were known commodities to me, as was Booth, who we've watched in Charleston, who I actually worked with in Fort Lauderdale a couple of years ago. When he started his career, actually. His first club was Fort Lauderdale. But the rest, have been surprising. Rocco Genzano is the player. I don't want to single out guys because I think it's been a really good collective effort thus far, but he's the guy. If I'm in another town following the USL Championship and I want a player to watch outside of the three names that I mentioned who are more experienced players, he's the guy. He's been fantastic. I think he's in the middle of everything Miami FC does really well, and his work rate off the ball is good. He times his runs well, he weights his passes well, and he's only 19. So really surprising player for me. I would say that we still have not seen the best of some of the guys yet. Another player I knew before this season was Michael Vang. He is not fully fit, so he's played. He had a great opportunity to equalize the game against Sacramento and just pushed it wide to the right. But he's a player I would expect to really see a lot from going forward. So this is a team I'm excited about. I think they're better than last year. And with I can't guesstimate the payroll of this team, but it's significantly less than it was a year ago. And I think it's a lot more fun. It's a funner group to be around. It's a positive energy. It's a positive vibe around this club. So, that's my status report on this club after 4 games. And we've got 2 very big games coming up in the next 10 days. Obviously at Hartford, and then the big one against the Rowdies. I mean, that game means a little more. I mean, it's only 3 points in the standings, but at least for me, it means a little more than the other matches. It's more important than the other matches, in my opinion. I think I'd probably rather beat Tampa Bay every time we play them and not win anything than win something and lose to Tampa Bay every time. But that's me. So anyway, that's where I am on the club. I really like what we're seeing. I think this is a different group. They're not going to win the USL Championship this year, in my opinion. I mean, you never know. But I do think that they are a better team than last year. And certainly there's a lot of elements I like in the team, positive vibes I like in what we're seeing.